Good morning.
Morning, Coach.
How are you guys doing today?
Doing well, thank you. Hope you are. We will begin with Andrew Jones. Go ahead, Andrew.
Hey, Coach. Mac was just talking about some of the things about the running game and about the use of Sam. Aside from the use of Sam, what are some of the things that have concerned you about the more conventional element of your run game through two games?
Well, I think initially we are dealing with some continuity issues. I think we've had Brian Anderson injured for the first two games. He played in this last one. Wasn't at 100%, but he played. And then he didn't play in the beginning. He didn't play in the opener against VTech. So that has been probably the biggest obstacle, Andrew, to overcome, I think. Week one, it kind of led to some communication issues. We had a lot more continuity from a communication standpoint, without question, this last game. I think Q got better in the week that since he played at Virginia Tech, and I think Brian added to that because it's what he does so well. And then, obviously this game we had Easy out, so Azudu was out. So we really haven't had our five starters yet. And I think, so we're calling on Ed Montillas and Q to play a bunch more. Wayne Barnes played a little bit in the last game. And so that we're just still searching for that comfort level, that rhythm that we got into last year. And I think that's a big part of it. And then, truthfully, and this is no slight on anybody that we have right now, but, the Michael and Javante were two of the best at the point of attack last year, and we were blessed to have two guys like that. And so now we have a very young backfield and with one veteran, and that veteran is starting for us, but it's still new in this offense. And so those guys are starting to feel the system, and they're starting to get in a little bit of a rhythm. But I think those two things are probably the two things that are probably stealing from us a little bit from a continuity standpoint up front.
I watched the replay of the game and Sam's 62-yard touchdown run, and Nick Polino turned to you and you gave a fist pump. Was that something you kind of thought at some point you might see from Sam? Just the way that he's changed his body and stuff.
I've really been proud of Sam with regards to how hard he's trained in the off season. The change in his body and in his explosiveness and in his change of direction and just all of that stuff that lends to his athleticism on the field. I mean, he was a very gifted runner. He was a very successful runner in high school. And I think when he first got here that first year, he tried to pull some of that off at Miami and South Carolina, and he took some hellacious hits. I see Ross smiling, so he must remember some of those hits. But he learned quickly that it wasn't going to be as easy at this level. And so in order to maintain being a run threat, he's worked really hard in the offseason, both off seasons, to improve his overall athleticism on the field. And Hess and those guys have done a good job, and he's been committed training. And you see the difference in both games so far. He's much more decisive about when he's going to run. He's getting through pass progression, and he's out. And he's attacking grass now. We pull on an RPO and it's not there. He's attacking grass now. And then on any of the runs where, the QB is involved in the pull or the potential run in itself, he's doing a great job of beating the line of scrimmage, as we say, and after that, you really don't want to have to coach a guy beyond the line of scrimmage. And he's been much more prolific, I think, in that aspect of the game. That's probably been his single best or most improved area athletically is his run ability off of all three phases of our game.
Thank you.
Greg Barnes, go ahead.
Hey, Phil, is it surprising and or concerning that you are having some of the continuity issues up front, given that, this is an experienced group that's played together for the most part for 3 years, that even though you've got one guy that goes out, that you don't have a simple, somebody else steps up and fills that role?
So I think we all hope that when you have a full veteran returning offensive line, that continuity would not be an issue. Now we've kind of stirred that up a little bit with the two injuries, our starting center and our best offensive lineman in Easy, but we do have some depth, and we do have some guys that we can plug in and go. And so I think with the as we progress through each game, I think our offensive line is going to improve with each week. And we really needed to start off at a better rate on game one because we needed to be able to lean on those guys in the opener. But I think we're going to get better each week. I think our guys will continue to improve. I think you'll see more and more continuity up front. And I think you'll see our running backs get into a little bit more of a rhythm. So, you just want to see that process, Greg, happen faster, right? Because when it doesn't happen, it costs you plays and potentially games. So that's something that we're emphasizing, and we'll emphasize again this week. And that's got to come along for us to have success on offense the way we expect it.
Thank you.
Mike Barber, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, they've played a lot more true 3-3-5, only with the 3 linebackers on the field. A year ago, a lot of their pressure came from the 4 linebacker spots. What do you see in what they're doing, and what do you see in terms of their getting or not getting pressure on opposing quarterbacks early on?
So I heard the tail end of Coach Brown's remarks about UVA, and I would mirror those. I think that they did a really good job of identifying what the weaknesses were of their defensive scheme last year. It's obvious that they did a very intensive study with regards to what they gave up, because they're doing a very good job in the first 2 games of not giving that stuff up to offenses now. They've done a really good job from a staff standpoint, I think, schematically, of taking away the things that people were picking on them for last year. Where people had success last year, they're doing some different things. And I'm not sure, I don't know, I'm not on their staff, so I don't know their personnel situation. But typically with that kind of approach with the 3 down and you're more safety laden or safety heavy, you typically have better personnel at that position, and I would guess, and this is strictly a guess on my part, but I would guess that they are much more talented maybe in the safety room, in the defensive backs room right now than they maybe with regards to in comparison to the depth that they have on the D line. And so their approach right now is not only handling, answering some of the weaknesses that they had last year, but it's also probably playing towards their strength. We think they're very gifted at safety. They're very gifted at nickel. Their star safety, which is their middle safety, number 29, is a very, very good football player. And so they've got a lot of really good athletes that can close ground and, and make plays in the open field. They tackle well in the open field. So to me, they have improved their defense schematically. And I think they're playing to their strengths personnel wise.
Thank you.
CL Brown, go ahead.
All right, Phil, we saw Antoine Green obviously have a breakout performance on Saturday. What do you feel like it's going to take to get Charfy Brown kind of in the same kind of a flow? Obviously, last year he had a big catch and score against Virginia. When can we kind of expect those things again?
So, with regards to AG, and I told y'all before, recruited him for a long time, very heavily at Ole Miss, and was elated when I got here and he was on the roster. So I've always thought very highly of his upside and what his potential was. And I thought this last game gave him an opportunity because we got him some targets. And I think the more we target him, the more he'll heat up. And I think he's going to be a guy we can depend on this year. And then with Charfy, a lot of it is last year he was, like they say in basketball, he was that 6th guy off the bench. You know what I mean? He came in, he made some plays, he played more sporadically. He's going to be more of an every down player, an all drive player this year, switching it off with Emory and with AG. And I think the more he plays, the better he'll get. He didn't make the catch on a walk-in touchdown opportunity last weekend. But those are plays that we know he can make. Those are plays we think he will make. And I think the biggest key is just to keep him out there and keep playing him. And I think that's the most important part of this thing for Charfy.
And I think the play before he caught, or it might have even been a series before, I can't remember now. He caught the touchdown. I got waved off. At one point when he was coming off the field, I think I saw you, he seemed almost exasperated, like maybe he felt he was open or something. I don't know what the situation was, but just from a mental standpoint for a kid like that, how do you kind of keep him, you know he's going to get going, but how do you kind of keep him mentally in the game up until he reaches that point?
So not to disagree with you, CL, but I really don't remember any frustration with Joffrey. I mean, Joffrey's probably about as positive and as happy-go-lucky and as upbeat a guy as we have in that room. I think he's dying to make plays. I've never known him to be one that gets frustrated or, if anything, he was frustrated over his drop because he knew he had a walk-in touchdown and he let it go. But from an attitude standpoint and a personality standpoint, I think he's been fantastic. And I think it's just a matter of time before we get him going. The focus for Joffrey is just that we got to keep him focused in on every play. So he's doing a good job at his position away from when he's getting targets, blocking and complementary routes and the RPOs and some of the things that are in his job description with regards to our offense away from when we're throwing him the ball. But from an approach standpoint and an attitude standpoint, I think he's about as positive as anybody in the room. So I think he just wants to make plays. He made a great catch in the end zone there that I still think is a touchdown, but they didn't give it to him and we lined it up and got it in a different way and came back to Joffrey a little bit later on. And, we're going to keep doing that because we think he can make plays for us.
Thanks, Coach.
Over to Gregory Hall.
Phil, obviously having Easy out and Brian Anderson, 2 separate games doesn't help, but I'm just curious, what are the specific mistakes that you're seeing, whether it's a tight end missing a block, just missed assignments, defensive line getting through when they shouldn't, just what are you seeing on film from the offensive line and the running game that's kind of causing some of the lower yards per carry?
Well, the improvement from game 1 to game 2 was, it was very noticeable. I mean, we did a better job of blocking at the second level. There were no communication issues. There was a lot more continuity. And I think that we'll play even better this week up front in game 3, just because we're progressing. Some of the issues in game 1 were erased in game 2. And in game 2 now, I mean, we had an opportunity to break some tackles and we didn't. We had an opportunity to hit some holes a little bit differently. And some of them we did and some of them we didn't. I thought the THII did a really good job on our stretch play to open the second half. We hit it a little bit faster and a little bit more aggressively. And I thought we settled down in the second half and I was much happier with where we were up front in the second half than I was in the first half. And this whole thing, not to be too vague about it, but it really is, it's 5 guys on the same page doing the same thing over and over and over. And we're not overly extensive in the running game. And that's so that we can be aggressive and we can keep it simple so we can play, downfield and play physically. And I think as we keep playing, that'll get better for us.
And then I wanted to ask about a few of the ineligible receiver downfield. How is that something that you can solve with Sam getting more active in the run game? Is that just something the linemen need to get used to as far as Sam might actually take off, or just how do you solve those? Because I feel like I haven't seen this many before with y'all's offense.
So I don't know offhand, Greg, how many have we had this year?
At least 3, I believe.
Yeah. So we've had either 2 or 3 in the last 2 years. It really hasn't been an issue. And I always tell Coach, I said, I'll take 3 a year. If you compare it to all the yardage we make and all the production we have and all the explosive plays we have with regards to the RPOs, those penalties are a non-issue. But I think to have 3 in 2 games are Virginia Tech specifically, it was 2 communication issues that got linemen down the field. Otherwise, we would not have had any. So we had 2 calls that were different from what we were doing, and we had linemen down the field. This one at Georgia State was, I think it was William Barnes got down the field on a complete pass protection call. There was no run called at all. It really just was William didn't do a good job of holding the line of scrimmage in a pass protection that we ran, which is really obscure. It doesn't happen very much. And he said he just kind of lost place to where he was. And before you knew it, he was down the field, which is not something that happens very often. I can't remember the last time that happened on a pass pro. So I think that seems like it's more of an issue than it really is. And it's not really a concern of mine at all.
Thank you.
All right. Last one for Coach Longo will come from Ross Martin.
Hey, Coach Longo. I thought Kamari Morales had a pretty good game. I think he was the 2nd leading receiver. Just wondering if you kind of speak to maybe his emergence, what he can bring to your offense is kind of a second tight end there for y'all.
So Kamari is I love Kamari. I mean, Kamari, what you love about a guy like Kamari Morales is he loves the game of football, right? And so he has inherently he's talented. He has some talent and he can do some things. And you know, blocking in the box for a guy like Kamari is all about want to. I mean, if he wants to be good in the box, he can be, and he puts that kind of effort into his run blocking. And I think he knows it's as important as what he does out in the open field. So we have been very happy with his progress in the box the last 2 years. You're going to see him on the field a bunch this year. We're going to utilize him because he's earned the right to be on the field. And then athletically, he does a really good job after he catches the ball well. He runs good routes, and I think he's athletic enough to, you know, you saw he made somebody miss on 2 different occasions. I think he gets vertical really quick. I think he can accelerate quickly, and you know, our quarterbacks feel comfortable throwing to him. And so, you know, it's nice to have Garrett Walston now and Kamari Morales, where you can use the 2 of them and keep the 2 of them fresh. And that's why I told you going into the season, I felt like we're happy because we're a lot deeper in the tight end room maybe than we were, you know, the first 2 seasons that we were here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Coach, for a few minutes this morning.
All right, you got it. Have a good week, fellas.